Hello, everybody. This is Chris Bangs with SME Nation, and I want to thank you for coming to our educational webinar this Thursday. This webinar is being co-sponsored by Symantec, and we're going to send you a couple of white papers from them. One's called Security in the Cloud, a Perfect Match, and the other is Protecting Your Business Data, 5 Do's and Don'ts for MSPs. But the main topic of our webinar today is being given by Mr. Karl Palachuk, and it's called What a Successful MSP Looks Like in 2014. This is going to be a great webinar. You know, lots of things are changing. IT is being commoditized, and we really have to figure out how we're going to be able to make not only survive but thrive in this new world of virtualization and cloud and managed services. Now, to do a little housekeeping, I just want to let you know that we're going to have questions and answers at the end of the webinar, and Heather and I will be presenting those to Karl. Everybody will get a copy of the questions, and the webinar is being recorded. At the end of the webinar, we will post it to our video servers and send everybody a link for the rebroadcast as well. And Heather, did you have anything to add before we introduce Karl?
Yeah, just be sure to send your questions through the questions feature, and I know we had a lot of people last week who wanted to see all the questions go by, so I will be doing that this week. They'll be coming through the chat feature. If you do have any issues seeing that, just let me know and I'll try to get you that access. Thanks.
So to introduce a man that probably needs no introductions, we have Mr. Karl Palachuk here. And Karl, if you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and then go into the presentation. Karl Palachuk.
Very good. Well, thank you guys for having me. Excuse my voice. I have allergies. You know, it's 77 degrees in Sacramento, and the weather is perfect. So I can't really complain. I was in Toronto last week, so met some amazing people there. So here's just a little bit about me. I owned an IT consulting business for 16 years. Sold that business. I still work as a consultant and engineer for them, and I primarily work on helping with client roadmap meetings and sales meetings and that kind of stuff. I manage some of the bigger projects, and so I'm still in the business. I just don't happen to own the business. And in the meantime, I wrote a few books, including Managed Services in a Month and several others. So I've got those up at smbooks.com. So let's look at what's going on today. There's a great old movie, if you're old enough to remember it, called The 3 Lives of Thomasina. And it's about this cat that had a family and then went through this crisis and almost died and had a kind of a second life. And then at the end of the movie, the 2 lives come together and everybody lives happily ever after. So believe it or not, it's a great analogy for the period of the last 10 years in the small business. And we're going to go through the first part of it pretty quick. I just want to set the stage so you understand where I think we're coming from.
And you're not taking a check from Disney for this, right? Because
I'm not taking a check from Disney. Oh, that's right. We got the full disclosure here. So, so if you think about the evolution of our space, you know, there was this period of 2003, 2008 where SBS really was in its prime. I mean, so much of this community grew up in that time slot. And then we've gone through quite a bit in the last few years. And now, really this year, things are starting to move in a completely new direction. And so I want to just, as I say, go through this really quick. So first of all, the managed service model evolved in this period from about 2003 to 2008. And the key components are that you have a remote monitoring and management system. And nowadays, everybody who does any tech support, even if they're completely break-fix, they call themselves managed services because they've got LogMeIn, or they've got GoToMeeting, or they've got some way that they can take over their clients' machines. I've got, you know, TeamViewer and other things. All these tools are available, and people can push patches and fixes and updates, and that's just a standard piece of what we do. Second thing is, obviously, tools, the professional services automation. So if you have ConnectWise or Autotask or something else, those tools allow us to manage our own business, manage a service board, keep things heading in the right direction, organize everything inside the company, organize customer relations. All of that is built into a tool. The focus is on maintenance, so preventive maintenance versus break fix. With that PSA tool, we've got a service board, so we've got service requests, tickets, all that kind of stuff is very standard in our business today. Doing business on an Excel spreadsheet was the way things got done in 2000, but it's been a long time since then. We also have, because of the RMM tool, alerts and monitoring, and if the server goes down, we usually know about it as soon as the client does, and that's because we take care of that piece of it. And of course, all of this is wrapped up inside of service agreements and recurring revenue. So if you think of it from the client's perspective, in the old way of doing business, everything was up and down every month. You never knew how much it was going to cost, and you paid in arrears. In other words, I have no idea what you're going to cost me this month, so I'm going to wait until something breaks. I call you, you run out, you fix it, you send me a bill. When I get ready, I pay you. I might pay you in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I might not pay you at all, but the theory is, at least theoretically, I'm going to pay you maybe 30 days out. In the new model, everything's prepaid. We try to make it as flat as possible. I like to say in the seminars I'm doing for the SMB Nation Emerging Technology Tour, I make sure I tell everybody, make it as flat as profitable, not as flat as possible. So, you could make it very flat and very unprofitable. That's obviously not the way to go. And you want to be paid in advance. So the goal is that you will be getting all of your money on the first day of the month, and then after that, you see how much it costs you to actually provide those services. Excuse me. So when you look at this period in time, 2003 to 2008, what you're selling is Small Business Server 2003, which came out in late 2003, and then if you're old enough to remember this, in November they came out with a revised CD3 so that the certificate didn't expire. And after that, we literally had 5 years of stability. We were selling the same product year after year after year for 5 years. We had a product that had core services that everybody needed, everybody wanted, that were rock solid. They just worked. Solid enough to build a business on, and a lot of the rending of garments that happened at the end of the SBS era is that there are literally thousands of people who built a business around the model of selling Small Business Server. And because it was stable and because it was reliable, it was also profitable. And we knew we had complete predictability about what this product was going to do and what the customer service was going to be. We knew how to make it work. And even though other technologies emerged over time, none of it did us any harm, because what emerged over time was, oh, I can also back it up to the cloud. Oh, I can also install a CDP. Oh, I can also have a faster internet connection. Oh, I can also have printers that are fast enough that they don't have to go through the server and they can be standalone. All the other technologies that emerged just made it easier and better to sell Small Business Servers. So that period, 2003 to 2008, made a whole bunch of people a whole bunch of money. It was like literally the heyday of being in this business. And at the same time, this emerging MSP model was going on. And then you have the recession. Now, I don't blame Small Business Server 2008 for the recession, Chris. I'm not saying 2008 caused that recession, but it was an interesting coincidence. August of 2008, we get a new server, and as you can see, things had sort of peaked before that, and the recession went up and down, and at several points, it tried to get above 12,000 and then bopped down to that 10,000 range. It didn't consistently stay above pre-recession levels until 2013. So now in 2014, we can look back and we say we've had a year where we really think that the recession is really over.
So you may remember that the great stock market crash of 2008 was the second day of SMB Nation 2008. We had a Thursday, Friday, Saturday show, and it was on Friday, I believe.
Not only do I remember it, but I have told people I lost half of my daughter's college education on the Friday of SMB Nation 2008, and I lost the other half of it on Monday. So I also don't blame SMB Nation for that.
Thank you.
Just so you know, I want to be real clear. I'm not blaming Small Business Server or SMB Nation for the crash.
Apparently, a lot of people do, though. But anyway, go ahead.
So, but the point is, we've gone through this fire, right? And so it was really a test of the managed service model. And in my opinion, the people who, in June and July of 2008, the people who had already adopted a 100% managed service model came out of this recession better than the others. During this period, we have this changing technology. Obviously, SBS 2008, and then it gets revved, and then 2011, and it gets revved, and 2012 comes out, and then you literally have the end of life of Small Business Server. So that's going on the Microsoft side. On the other side, you've got, okay, now we're selling hosted Exchange mailboxes instead of Exchange on site. We're selling storage in the cloud, right? We've got eFolder and Anchor and whatever. We've got all of these companies that are putting storage in the cloud. We sell rack space, so that's something to where that company just really took off during that time period. There's lots of different spam filtering. So now we've got hosted spam filtering, hosted antivirus. We've got line of business applications that are now all up in the cloud. So during the recession, during that period where you've got all of this change going on the desktop and inside the customer's office, the server is no longer 2003. It's now 2008, 11, and 12. And then you're moving off of Small Business Server. Well, all this other stuff is evolving. So it really does prove the SMB or the MSP model, right? Because what we've got is that stable, reliable, profitable income, but not necessarily from a server serving up those core components. Now those core components are in the cloud, and so we're looking at where do we get our predictable income, right? Where do we have our predictable expenses? And the managed service model, remember, it's not just the way that your clients buy services from you, it's also the way that you buy the services that you sell and resell. So you know what it's going to cost you for antivirus licenses. You know what it's going to cost you for your RMM and for your PSA. Every month you've got actually now a budget for income and outgo, and it's pretty easy to tell, especially if you get paid in advance, right? You know whether or not you are profitable on the first day of the month. And that's a huge change if people are actually adopting it. Now, the people who say, well, I'm kind of half MSP or I'm half managed services, well, then you're half profitable and you're half reliable and half stable. And, a lot of people make a ton of money doing break fix. I can't deny that. But at the first day of the month, you can't deny that you have $0 coming in the bank, guaranteed. And somebody who's got the managed services has got all of what they need, guaranteed. Now, this is just this kind of lengthy quote, but this is an example of many, many people who have looked at the managed service model and realized during the recession, this is what saved their bacon. And I actually had a discussion last night where somebody was saying that at our user group meeting here in Sacramento, that if it had not been for flat fee managed services, they would not have survived the recession. And that's a very common thing. I can tell you from cleaning my mailing list that on 2 separate occasions during the recession, we cleaned our mailing list and lost 25% of the names on the list. So that's a list of managed service providers, right? That at 2 different occasions we cleaned that list, and 25% of them simply ceased to exist. So a lot of people in the IT business didn't make it out of this recession for one reason or another. They gave up, they took a job, they went back to work, they got bought out, they just plain went out of business. Lots of things happen to people, but for the people who were 100% committed to managed services, most of them did very, very well. So now the question is, all right, here we are, what's next? Where do we go from here? And we've got kind of this mature model and we have the post-SBS technology. So we got to look at it in terms of what is the stable piece. And don't forget my premise, which is that stable piece, that SBS 2003, is what made us profitable. So think in terms of what in your business is stable versus what is changed. The model is pretty much stable. It is exactly what it was predicted to be, that we've got these tools and these processes and procedures in place, and to the extent that we are following that model and those processes and procedures, that it is stable and it's profitable and it's working. So that's the piece that we can rely on. In terms of technology, right now today, if you're installing things, you're probably installing Server 2012, either Essentials or Foundation Server, which is that's what we love to install, or the standard server. You may also be installing non-Microsoft solutions. It is very, very interesting how many non-Microsoft solutions have suddenly become acceptable, where 5 years ago it was almost a religious war that you would not install non-Microsoft solutions. So not just at the server level, but on the desktop, tablets are taking over the world. There was a report this morning that tablets are supposedly going to outsell PCs by the end of this year. So, we've got all of those things. We've got all these other devices that just show up. BYOD, bring your own device, or bring your own destruction, is taking over. You can't stop people from just showing up at their office with whatever the latest and greatest technology is. And somehow you got to figure out how you're going to support that. The other thing that's going on is right now, I can't imagine starting this business today and not selling hosted spam filtering, antivirus, run-the-business apps, storage, exchange mailboxes, right? The core things that many, many people need. Even if you've got a client that's big enough to have a standalone Exchange server, if they're not big enough to need a standalone Exchange server, then you don't sell them one. And so we have this proliferation of hosted tools and services that have become the norm in our business. The other big thing that's changed is marketing. It used to be television and radio, and there was a thing called the yellow pages, which is primarily used for making sure your monitor is at the right height, which is why they make the yellow pages in 3 different sizes. But other than that, some people actually used to use it for marketing. And the thing that's great about yellow pages is I can go to plumbers and instantly have a list of plumbers in my area. And that's actually a little bit hard to do on the internet. I can look up plumbers, but what I get is overwhelmingly plumbers who are willing to spend money to be seen in my area, even if they're in another state and they're just some franchise that doesn't have a good connection to my business. So we haven't really replaced the yellow pages. We've gotten rid of it, but we haven't replaced it with something that's as useful electronically. And so, part of what our challenge is today is how do we use the social media to actually make money? There's a lot of SEO snake oil being sold out there where, oh, I'm going to get you at the top listing of Google. Well, okay, that's good for 20 minutes, and then you got to go do it all again. And it's kind of like fighting this battle that you can't win. It's spy versus spy. So there are other social media where you can participate and you can be part of the community and you can do other things. But fundamentally, you have to remember that 99% of the time, 99% of the people are not looking for a new IT consultant. So the probability that on the day that they need something, you're top of mind is very slim. So you got to figure out how do you break through that? What do you do? And that marketing challenge is probably the greatest challenge that we have today. But I would tell you that one of the things you need to do is you need to be involved. And I go to so many meetings where people say, oh, Facebook is a waste of time, and LinkedIn is a waste of time, and all of these things, Pinterest is a waste of time. And, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But if you feel that way, you're missing out on what is arguably your greatest marketing opportunity. Think about broadcast media like the radio, and I've done radio advertising. The overlap between your target and your audience is very, very small. You know, you might have a radio broadcast that goes out to 1 million people or 2 million people in your market, but 7 of them might be your potential clients who happen to be listening to that radio station at that minute in time. Social media, people choose to participate in, and they choose the way that they want to participate and how often they want to participate. And so you can actually find connections there. You can make connections, and you can make friends. Remember, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. So get together with people, create a community, participate in the community online. You will be one of the people that is known and liked and trusted. And on the day that somebody needs services, they'll say, oh, that's the guy who can help me with that. I know a guy who does computer stuff. He's always talking about these things on LinkedIn. So, but you have to have a plan. You can't just scattershot it, and you can't just, you know, show up one day, post 7 things on Twitter, and then say it didn't work for me. You have to have an actual plan, and you have to execute it. So now we've got a model that works. We've got this new technology and these new marketing techniques. So we really actually kind of have a sense of what the world looks like right now. And even though some other cool new technologies are coming up, like the 3D printing and so forth, those technologies are not core to our space. So what's happening is that our space is going to be pretty stable for at least a year, and if we're lucky, maybe 2. So our space will become a little more stable. So the first best practice that I would recommend to you is to create a great cloud offering. It doesn't have to be this one. It doesn't have to be like mine, but it should be something that works in your space. Think about what are those core technologies that everyone needs. How do they fit into the business model that you have now and the offerings that you have now? And going forward, how can you offer something up that people will gobble up and is profitable? I will tell you our experience, because we started selling the heck out of this in 2007, 2008, is it is ridiculously profitable. And people, you know, will question that all day long, but go do the math. Go find a service, and it doesn't have to be the one I sell. It could be something else. But if you have a service where you say, look, you get so much storage and you get these exchange mailboxes and all of these services, you know, you and I know in the managed service model, we're buying this spam filtering for, at most, $1.50 a mailbox, right? It starts at $1.50. We're buying the antivirus at that price. We're buying the RMM at that price. Websites are, I wouldn't say they're free, but they'll do until free comes along. I have a DreamHost account, and I think I paid $37 last month for 200 websites. So, you know, the things that you buy in bulk, but you only sell it as you need it. You know, so we got all these clients that are paying us for 250 gigs of storage. Well, I'm not buying 250 gigs for every one of those people. Some of them have 30 gigs of storage in use, and some have 60, and very rarely will somebody have over 100. And then we got a couple that are gargantuan and big and whatever, but for the most part, I'm only buying what I need in order to provide these services. So I have, even at a very, you know, I'm a small company, but we still have this scalability that allows us to buy only what we need and sell at this flat rate. So whether you have 1, 2, 3, or 5 users, it's $250 a month. That's hard to say no to. You know, it's a very reasonable price. If you get somebody who says, oh my God, I can't afford $250 a month, okay, good. Well, I'm glad you had that conversation. They're not your clients. And you need to be able to feel very good about walking away and not losing any sleep over the fact that there are people who can't afford your very reasonably priced service. So again, you don't have to have this offering, but you have to have some offering, and you have to figure out what it is. I mean, I like this as an example because it really does cover the core basics. There's very little that's not covered here. If we were going to redesign this today, probably the one thing that we would put on there would be device management, which we would not charge anything extra for. You know, so some devices, like your average Windows phone, we can actually do quite a bit with. A device like an iPhone or a Droid, we can brick it if you lose it. And that's kind of it. we can put antivirus on them, and then we're done. You know, so it's not like there's a huge amount of labor involved in managing those devices. You simply offer it up, throw it into the package, and when we created this package, we literally threw a big box on the board and we said, how much stuff can you put in the box? And we had this company-wide discussion about what we could put in the box and how much it was going to cost us. And you know, we actually started out with a $4.99 price tag and brought it down from there. And we think this is a very reasonable and very competitive price. And as I said, we sell the heck out of it. Next, best practice I would recommend is to define your service offering very specifically and very clearly in a way that your clients and your employees can understand it, and the people who do your billing can understand it, and everybody knows what you get, what's included, and what's not included. For us, the definition is that managed services covers the maintenance of the operating system and software. So what that means is it adds, moves, and changes. It includes maintenance. So if something is on your system and it works, and if it breaks, we will fix it for no additional charge. If it breaks again, we'll fix it again. If it breaks again, we'll fix it again, right? So clearly it's in our best interest to make it work so that we don't have to spend the extra labor continuing to fix it. So we're in the same mode as the clients. We get paid more money when everything works, right? We are more profitable when everything works. So now we're totally in line with the client. And it covers the operating system and software, so it doesn't include hardware. It does not include hardware. So if a hard drive breaks and it's under warranty, I will call the manufacturer for you, and we'll talk nerd to nerd, and we'll get that replaced. But the actual hardware is something that is outside of managed services unless you've got a deal for that. So this way we can draw a nice, easy line. And the story I always tell people, because it's easy for them to remember, is that if you want to make a change, you say, I want Office 2013 installed on this computer. Say, okay. So that's an add move change. And so I'm going to charge you to do that install. Once it's up and it boots up and now I can open that and open a file, okay, it's installed. Now it's covered by maintenance. So if anything goes wrong after that, we will fix it for no additional charge. But you will pay the add move change to go ahead and put that in the first time. Next best practice is to cover almost everything. What you want to do is cover as much as you can. So there are two components to your managed service revenue. One piece is the flat fee, and the other piece does vary month to month depending on what kind of projects they have going. And what we like to do is to have that managed service component be as flat as possible. We want it to be as predictable as possible. So, for example, in our company, we have traditionally included the labor for setting up a new machine on managed services in the first month. So we don't charge somebody to set up a new computer. They get like 3 hours of free labor, which is potentially 3 hours. That's the most that they will get for free, but they get that for $60 or $65, whatever our current price is. And so that's just thrown in there. Now we do have a 4-month minimum so that we guarantee we're not going to lose money on that client, but the point is that it's very, very predictable. They're not going to get this extra big bill, right? And things like, once a year, which is far too often, but once a year we'll cover moving from one ISP to another, right? That's just included in the Platinum plan, and that way they don't get an extra bill for that if they happen to change ISP, right? Do things like that to make it as flat as possible, and what you're really doing is you're justifying increasing your price, right? If you say, look, if stuff goes wrong with your network, it's covered. If it goes wrong with your printers, it's covered. If it goes wrong with your ISP, it's covered. We're going to manage your vendors, right? It's covered. We're doing all of those things, but we're doing it so that we can justify a higher monthly base for your managed service. We're not just throwing it in for free. We're throwing it in at a slightly higher price, right? So you have to look at the terms support and services and figure out, okay, so what's covered and what's not. Now, the reason I have this little map here is it's also completely legitimate to figure out what your territory is and have one price inside this territory and another price outside this territory. Very few people in our business have gotten away with trip fees. They become kind of a thing of the past. But you can have on-site minimums, and you can have different on-site minimums in different areas. If you're a Microsoft partner, you can go get the action pack. You can download Microsoft Maps, which has one of the coolest tools I've ever seen, which is you put in your office location, and then you say, draw a circle around my office for 30 minutes of driving time or 60 minutes of driving time, and it automatically just magically draws this circle, and you can print it out and put it on your wall and say, that is our 1 hour minimum, or that's our 2 hour minimum, or whatever, circle. Like that's the range where everybody who's inside that circle gets this price, and somebody outside that gets the next price. And so it makes it easy for, again, everyone inside and outside your company to know what those limits are. If you don't pay attention to the money side of this, nobody else is going to. Nobody else has the job of making your business profitable. So you have to focus on that constantly. Every little thing that you do, you have to look at, is this going to make us more profitable or less profitable? And again, if you can make things as flat as possible for the client, they're going to love it. So throw as much as you can into your bundle, but also make sure that you throw it in profitably. Next best practice is to pick a good partner. So everybody's got a different opinion about who is good to work with and who's not good to work with, and what your experiences are, and so forth. Whatever you choose to do, again, make it a profitable decision, but look at partners that give good support, have a good reputation, people that are fun to work with, interesting to work with, whatever it might be. Again, I don't get money from Rackspace. I wish they would pay me even 1 nickel for as many times as I've told people that I use them, but they don't. So Rackspace for us, you can never get anybody on the phone. It's almost impossible, but it doesn't matter because nothing ever breaks. And if they ever have an issue, we send an email, and either somebody calls us right away or they send us an email and said, oh, yeah, it was this thing, we fixed it. And so we have found them to be very good and very profitable to work with. And that's just our experience. Everybody's got different experience. So you should find partners that you like, and then you should stick with them. And one of the things about vendors is that there is a certain loyalty that goes both ways if you pick the right vendor. There are vendors who will go to bat for you if they look and say, this person's been a partner for, whatever, 5 years. They don't sell a lot, but they are loyal to us. They love us. And, you know, one of the things about being small and being in this business is that you can't call somebody and say, I do $7 million worth of work with you. Well, that's just not going to work. But what you can say is, I go to these conferences, I tell 100 of my friends about my good experience, and I tell 100 of my friends about my bad experience. So what you need is to provide me with the good experience. And they really, really get that. They love to bring out their partners and showcase them and say, here's somebody who had a really great experience with our product. And so, you know, your leverage doesn't have to be in terms of absolute dollars. Your leverage can be in terms of being somebody who is a good spokesman for their business if they are good to you. And so just pick your partners carefully and don't change them a lot. If you sell a different backup solution every 6 weeks, A, you're going to have a whole bunch of variety of crap out there. You're not even going to know what every client has. And B, you're not building that kind of loyalty that goes both ways. So think about, you know, who are the partners that you want to be loyal to? Who are the vendors that have been loyal to you? And stick with them and you know, build that relationship. It's just like any other relationship. So a few other quick hits. If you don't have an RMM or a PSA, please get them. Please at least try them. Everybody, GFI, everybody's got a free trial that you can get where, you know, you look at it and you say, okay, it's this. Or they might be so cheap that it's not even worrying about a free trial. I get $1.50 a month per desktop. Okay, let me get 3 of those and just see how it works. Let me play around on their dashboard. Let me open an account for free and just kind of poke around, even if I don't deploy anything. The PSAs, again, the more that you put into your PSA, the more you manage your business, the more you can get reports out and learn about what actually happens inside your own business. You think you know, but you don't. one of the best lessons I ever learned in my life is one time I had a client who was a consultant to dentists, and he used to have this equipment in his office, and so I would go in and I'd be working on this equipment, and he would be on the phone with the dentist, and he could tell just by going over 6 or 8 numbers that were given to him how many clients they had, what their accounts receivable was, how many people were being reappointed at the time that they finished their dental appointment, and on and on and on. He knew all of this information in just great, rich detail because he worked with so many dentists, and he knew what these core numbers meant, and he knew how to interpret them in order to help that person be better at their business. That's the kind of thing you can do with a PSA. So even though you can look at a number, you can look at QuickBooks and say, well, I have $3,000 in accounts receivable, that doesn't tell you the story. It doesn't tell you what's really, really going on inside your business. And a good PSA with good reporting will tell you those things. Next, I would say sell the best, and that means high-quality stuff. Don't try to save your clients money. Don't be the person who competes with Best Buy. You know, if I always hear people say, well, what happens if clients shop you around? Well, clients won't shop you around if you manage them properly. You go to a client and you say, look, I'm not going to sell you home quality equipment. I'm only going to sell you business quality equipment, which means you're not going to be able to get it at Best Buy. You will be able to get it at CDW, but you got to know how to shop for it. So either you can buy it from me, and there's no such thing as a sub-1000 desktop, or you can have me sit down with you, and we will shop online, and you can put in your credit card, and I'll charge you for my time, but I guarantee that you will get the right thing. Because technology, computers, should be as carefree as the telephone. They should just work every single day of the year, and they shouldn't be troublesome, and they shouldn't go down in the middle of the night, and you shouldn't have hard drives that fail, and you shouldn't have all of these issues. Having issues with hardware should be a thing of the past, and if it's not, you're selling the wrong thing. If you build your business on worrying about having to get up at Sunday at midnight to go to somebody's office because the server's crashed, you're in the wrong business. You are either selling or supporting things incorrectly. So sell the best stuff, and it will make you more money. If you have clients who say, I will only buy the $200 laptop, okay, great. Have a very nice experience. Don't expect me to support that, right? Support for a piece of crap is full price and maybe, 1.5 times full price. You cannot let clients always buy cheap garbage and then expect to support it at a very high level. Part of maintenance means that you buy the right thing. You could still be taking your Yugo to get the oil changed every month, and you could still be driving it, but it would not be a pleasant experience compared to buying a new car that's actually well maintained. Next, I would say manage time in every way you can, and that means limit how much time you buy. Pay your employees by the hour. Buy what you need. And I'm sorry to have to say that to folks who are paid by the hour, but it is just the case that the boss has to look after the cost of labor. It is the single greatest expense in any service business, and you have to manage it. You have to keep track of it. You should track all of your time between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. You should work in real time, so you know exactly how many hours it takes to support a client, and that's the key to knowing whether or not that client is profitable. So work in real time, manage that time, sell it very carefully, and buy it very carefully. Time is your widget, is what my brother said. So, it's the thing you buy, it's the thing you sell, it's the thing that makes you profitable. So even if you're not selling by the hour, you're still using those precious hours to provide support to your clients. So make sure that that is done in a way that is very profitable. Next, use checklists and standard operating procedures. This is the key to our business. Very few businesses lend themselves to checklists and standard operating procedures, as well as technology. There literally is a click-by-click way to do every single thing you do. And you do it more or less the same most of the time. You might as well finish the job and do it exactly the same every time. It will make you more profitable, it will make you more reliable. It will make your processes more stable, and that's where you make more money. So SOPs are it. And finally, I would recommend the best practice of getting prepaid for everything. The days are past when you should argue about this. So don't tell me that your clients won't do it. Your clients do it with the ISP. They do it with the people that support their copy machine. They do it with the rent. They do it with people who clean their windows. They do it with every single thing, and they should be doing it with you as well. So get paid in advance for all of the work that you do. Don't let your clients use you as the bank. That's very, very, very old advice that you now need to begin to take. If somebody comes to you and says, I need 2 servers, great. Give them a quote, and do not order those servers until you have been paid for it. There's no reason that you should create a cash flow problem in your own company so that your client can be out 30, 60, 90 days on $10,000 worth of equipment. Even a small thing. I mean, you could even have limits and say clients can order up to whatever, $300 without having to prepay. But whatever that limit is, stick to it. And you'll find that clients just go along. They don't argue with you. The next time you have a quote and you say, sorry, but we need to be prepaid on hardware and software, they go, okay, great, I'll get that to you on Thursday, right? So when the check actually shows up on Friday or Saturday or Monday, that's when you can order the equipment. Otherwise, if you go 30, 60 days, think about being out 1 or 2 or 3 or more payrolls where you've already paid your employees a couple of times before you got your money for work that's been done. Just don't do it. And if you need some guidance and assistance and whatever, email me, and I will beat you up through email until you actually accept that this is something you can really, really do. Because clients don't resist. They really don't. You might have one client who resists. Everyone else will just go along with it. This is not something you have to implement over 6 months. Do it today, and you'll be more profitable by the end of this month. All righty. That is what I had, except that if you would like to get a discount on managed services in a month or any of the other products that we sell at smbooks.com, just use this handy-dandy little discount code of SMBNation20, and that's good through the end of this year. So 20% off of your order at smbooks.com. And now, if there are questions, I'll be very happy to take them.
Thanks a lot, Karl. We do have a question from one of our folks that wants to know if your slide deck is going to be available and where they can pick that up. And Heather, are you going to put that in a place and email out the location? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So Karl, if you're okay with them looking at the slide deck, I'm happy to convert that to a PDF format and send that out with our thank you email, which will go out later this afternoon, if that's okay with you.
That's perfectly fine. So I can just send you the slide deck, or they could rewatch this video 100 times. So
okay.
Whatever works.
And then Heather, I'd like to go over a slide if you could pass me the presenter, please.
Sure, Chris.
So folks, I want to tell you about a couple of cool things that are going on. If you enjoyed today's presentation, Karl is doing a nationwide tour with us. I think we've got 8 or 9 more cities to do, and he is going through his standard operating procedures. Hold on one second, please. Okay, I just had a little technical difficulty here. And you should now be able to see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm seeing it. Cool stuff.
Oh, you are seeing it? He's seeing it. Okay. Okay. So a couple of things that I'd like to cover. Karl is on tour with us. If you go to tour.smbnation.com, you can see a list of cities times and dates that we are presenting. As Karl was saying, he just came back from Toronto, where he did his standard operating procedures. Very, very good class. In addition, we are teaching 4 hours of PowerShell scripting to replace the wizards that are going away with the end of life of Small Business Server. And then we are also teaching the differences on the Exchange 2013 product that's coming out. So it's a great show. I urge you to go to tour.smbnation.com and check out those dates and see if there's one near you that you can attend. If there's a cheap flight, it's worth flying to. It's a great, great show. No sponsor speeches. We have 30 minutes for a sponsor to open the show. It pays for the food, and then we usually have a lunch and learn from a sponsor, but that's it. It's pure education. The other place I'd like you to check out, I'm still working on getting some updated classes in, like Windows 8 and Exchange 2013 and PowerShell, but if you go to smbnation.com/training, we have partnered with GoGo Training and are offering a lot of free courses. A lot of our older courses are for free. They're very, very good courses, but we also have 4 paid courses as well. If anybody's interested in being a reseller, contact me personally. My name is Chris Bangs, and my email is chrisb, C-H-R-I-S, B as in Bangs, at smbnation.com, and I will consider that. If you, we really don't have a reseller program, but if you saw some Outlook courses or something you wanted your people to take and wanted to make revenue, I'll consider that. And that's it. Karl, do you have any anything that you want to mention or talk about? Or
well, just you know, all the fun stuff at the SMB Books, and my blog is at smallbizthoughts.com. And you know, I don't know why it suddenly like exploded, but I have a YouTube channel at Small Biz Thoughts that has just like, I've done this 90% increase in viewers in the last month. So there's no porn up there or anything, so I can't really explain it.
Oh, geez. Are you sure? So that's smallbizthoughts.com?
Yeah. So, and that's where I have my blog, and all the goodness starts there.
Oh, look at you. There you go. And where do I get to that YouTube channel?
It's youtube.com/smallbizthoughts.
Okay. So youtube.com/smallbizthoughts or smallbizthoughts.com, and you can get all the goodies from Karl Palachuk. All right, folks. Well, if there's no other questions, we will get that slide deck up in the re-recording. Karl, as always, it was just fabulous stuff for us, and you had some really good points, and I thank you for sharing.
Well, thanks for having me. I always appreciate it.
All right, folks. Well, we'll see you next Thursday at the same bat time and the same bat channel. This is Chris Bangs, Karl Palachuk, and Heather Lawrence, wishing you a great day, and adios.